at points in time, I mean, she was daunting at points in time, right? It was like, okay, I'm going to bring up the D word again. Don't kick me, we would joke about what I was going to get met with, the stonewalling and some of the resistance. She had no conceptualization that she came across as powerful and controlling and strong as she did. She felt powerless and helpless inside. Okay. And so that became part of the dialogue in terms of reflecting on how people perceived her, how her daughter could perceive her at points in time, how she perceived herself, how other people perceived her. Okay.
Which could be why she had that, the daughter had that fearful, jokey kind of.
Yep.
You haven't hit me.
I know it's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like something's coming.
Yep. Okay. Should we, can you hang in 5-10 more minutes and finish, and then we'll take a break? Okay, all right. So the other thing that I often felt like I got set up for was to be the expert that was supposed to tell her what to do, okay? You're supposed to be telling me how to do these things. And so this is where I pulled in the doctors, not listening to her, right? Wait a second, you've told me multiple stories of not being listened to by your mom, of not having choices with your mom, of being overpowered by your mother, of not being listened to by the doctors. If I tell you what to do, how am I going to be any different than all the other people in your life that have told you what to do? And she would fight me on it sometimes. Julie, in the Black community, the elders are supposed to tell the woman what to do. And I'm like, okay, but I'm not your elder, I'm not that much older than you. But in her conceptualization, that's what I was supposed to be doing. So I really had to thoughtfully challenge that for her. Okay, so this begins to mark a time when she starts to think maybe her daughter shouldn't be away from her so much. So now she starts conceptualizing that she could begin to remember what it felt like to be away from her mom so much and how much she longed for her mom, and now she can start attending to her daughter's needs. This is about 7 months. About 7 months. So I was going to show you a clip midway through, and I'll just tell you about it instead. About 10 weeks into the work together, we started, as she got more on board with trying to figure out how to build a relationship, I did more coaching. So it goes to kind of your question. So I would have them play face-to-face with something and say, okay, follow her lead. No matter what she does, try and figure out a way to elaborate it. So they were playing a game with cards one day, and she was putting them on her daughter's head, and then her daughter would put them on her head. And I'd say, okay, now make her give you a cue for when you can dump your head and the cards can go off. So really working on helping them stay face-to-face, enjoying a game together, following each other's leads and cues. So she had to follow her daughter's lead and cue, and then she had to have her daughter follow her lead, and then she paid attention to a lead or cue from her daughter. So that was part of kind of a coaching style that I took. This was now about 6 months into the work. Okay. Okay, wait, I'm going to just back it up a little bit. So they're playing a game. My video camera doesn't always, you can't see it, so sometimes it aims high, and I have to figure out. So they're playing a game. You're going to see the grandmother is part of the game too. Then you're going to see a very clear missed cue on my part of what I'm supposed to be doing, but you can see how much better she is at cueing people, at giving cues, and face-to-face and playfulness and more affect, between them.
Move on back, the driver on the bus says, move on back, all through the town. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Let's sing. I'm
My turn.
You love me. We're best friends like friends should be with a great big
And then she goes back to her mom. So, in fact, years later, because then I continued to work with her mom, years later she found out her mom was coming to see me, and she said, "Why do you get to see her? She's my Julie." So she had a sense along the way that we were all working on her behalf, even at points in time that she was kind of, off to the side at points in time. Yeah. Now, in this instance, I was doing the camera. I would probably normally give a hug and redirect. What I think it's really hard is when the children aren't getting enough affection on a day-to-day basis. Sometimes what I'll say, depending on the age of the child or to the parent, is, I don't think it's me that you want affection from. I think it's your mom, And I would say that to the parent too. It's not me that she wants. It's we have to figure out a way to help you guys, find each other. So, but that's like my style. Everybody has to find their words and their style. And again, if a parent isn't ready to hear that, I'm not going to be saying that. I'm going to try and, work up. Because if I say to a parent, what's it like for you? Some parents are going to be able to say, she likes you better than she likes me. Other parents are going to say, doesn't matter. She does that with everybody, I don't really care. I'm glad she can, make friends easily with people. You could get all kinds of a range. So I'm going to try and put into words sometimes what I think the underlying need really is. So, okay. So trying to think if there's anything else with that. So in terms of, and I didn't even talk about, the, there's the I can't stop crying. So some of the losses that she had to grieve, what also came out probably about a month into the therapy, was that she had another baby girl that she had lost, where the doctors hadn't listened to her. And so loss was everywhere. I didn't choose to focus on that because I wanted to focus more on the intergenerational transmission, but she had another little girl that was wanted, that was lost several years before she had this child. Pardon? Stillborn, right? Really near term. Yeah. So it was off. That was a large part of our work, but again, it was like another layer of loss. Usually I talk about it, but I got behind today. Loss of her marriage, loss of an image that she should be able to manage at all. There was lots of loss. And then feeling heard for her was incredibly important. It's textbook, right? I would say something and she'd say, I didn't realize that I felt that way until I just heard you say it. So, and the other thing that was textbook, and sometimes we talk about it, is as I would begin to put her words in, her feelings into words, and she could take it, there would be times that Asabia would climb on her lap and cuddle into her, and one time she said, she's never fallen asleep like this on me before. And then she said, maybe it's because I've never slowed down enough to let her do it. Usually I would be in motion. So as I began to contain and hold her experience, she was much more able to hold and contain her daughter's experience. So, but it kind of really takes understanding what they're giving us from an interactional perspective, understanding the stories being told, trying to get the story, trying to mark it, contain it, digest it, and give it back in a way that's understandable so that they can then begin to get some more reflective functioning on behalf of their child. And that sounds like a real technical term, but that's really what it's about, is the more that she could understand herself, the more she understood her daughter. So sometimes understand the child is the way to understand the self. Cheryl. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 So that was after about 10 weeks of work, and it was we had started to talk about some of the loss, some of the longing, And she was more able to say, I want to find better ways to connect with her. And I really framed it as the more that you guys are connected, the more you take her lead in play, the more compliant she'll be in behavior the rest of the time. Because she really was pretty non-compliant a lot of the time. So kind of hooking into the mom's needs too, of you want her to be more compliant, she'll be more compliant if she feels like you understand her in other places. This is one of the places that we can work on. So I got permission to kind of coach. You know, it went along, and I still had to talk about, it was a dilemma between me telling her what to do, but also in a way that it was a collaborative approach. This is what you want, this is what she wants, let's build this together. I don't think that I ever directly told her, I think you should do this, or I think you should do that. So, yeah. It was developmental guidance, I guess. Yeah. Yes? No. I said the speech therapist was kind of like a second time a week because it was engaging. Yeah, no, it was, there were a couple points in time that I went twice a week just for a short period of time, but overall it was once a week. Yeah. So, all right. Okay, so I'm hoping that calls out some of the strands of how to use attachment templates. So fearful, helpless, avoidant of feelings, all wrapped in, right, in terms of affect regulation and having to begin to name, contain, hold, all of that so that she could then do that for her daughter. So, okay, so when we come back, we'll figure out where we're going to go now. Oh, yes. Yeah. Yep. Oh, yeah. It was almost better by the time I saw them. In fact, that was some of her drivenness, was she felt so good to feel good. You know, she was like jumping, and it felt so good to feel good. And when we contextualized that with the mom too, she was like, yeah, I guess I kind of see that. So, yeah, but she did. She got a lot stronger. Yeah. As the vitamin D deficiency fell away. So, okay. Like 10 minutes? Does that give you enough time? Okay. All right. Good. I'll see you in 10. Okay, so I'm going to pull us back together, finish a couple points from that, and then we're going to take a look at how we can use video observation and how we use a video observation process to think about what we see, what meaning we make out of it, and where we think we're going to go with something. And we're going to use a very difficult, affectively charged, home-based interaction so that you can be traumatized. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. It's a very distressing, but you will get the qualitative pieces of the frightening, disorganized, and we're going to use it to think about where would you begin. So we're going to pull together these last strands of, what's your port of entree, and go from there. So just a couple things. Towards the end of our work together, right, one of the things that happened with this family is every summer, the grandmother would take the children over to West Africa for a 3-week span of time, 3 to 6 week span of time. So the first summer that they were going, their relationship was just after this video clip that they were going to be leaving. So I was like really nervous about their relationship, and she was still sort of dismissive at that point in time. She won't even miss me. She loves being with my mom. And all she could think about was that she was going to get a break, and that was going to feel really good, right? About midway through the trip, she was like, she calls me every day. She misses me. I can't believe she misses me. And you know what? I miss her. Really, what do you miss? I miss the smell of her. I miss the feel of her. I miss the sound of her voice. I mean, it was so much richer than before. So fast forward then, the next couple of summers, they don't end up going. And from that point after, she goes to West Africa with them on these summer trips. She never lets Asabia go on her own again, and says to me at the end of our work together, how come you never told me she shouldn't go to West Africa without me? I'm like, okay, we had a few other things to be, but I didn't want to be directive with her because she had so many I didn't want to tell her what to do. She needed to make that choice. And thankfully, it worked out well. And Asabia came back a relaxed, joyful, playful child. And what was interesting is that when we talked about that, she said, in where they were from in West Africa, they really beam upon the children. Like they just adore the children. And all I could think of was, as I was watching the sun today, is just what that sun does, And so we didn't have the tree at that point in time, but she really got that part of what was good for Asabia was being adored. Yes, the grandmothers found some family members. Yeah. So yeah, and I never quite got the full story of who was the relations there. So, okay. So now, just kind of fast forward, she's about to be 13. She's animated, doing well in school, has friends. Her mom calls her a lovely, lovely young woman. She's on the cusp, of adolescence. She has some controlling features, which we would expect out of like that early disorganization kind of template, but doing really well. So, okay. All right. So I guess I say that to say too that even in a really tough situation, she had some level of economic security, which is much more than a lot of our families have, but a lot of the other risk factors that we see were there, and there was a lot of progress. So I think it's really helpful to see situations that turn out hopeful. Okay, what I want to do now is I'm going to fast forward through some of these slides and just call your attention to them. So some salient behaviors when you're looking at attachment in the home. We've been kind of covering these, but I just want to call them to your attention. And I added a slide, so I just want to kind of call this out for you too. In the home setting, secure children cry at home as often as insecure children do, but they tend to cry less because their cues are more differentiated. So from 6 months to 12 months, from that phase of time of the onset of focused attachment, you might see a secure child fussing and crying, but the duration of it's going to be shorter than a lot of kids who are more insecure. The other thing in home settings with insecure children is this is when the template's being developed, right? So they have to have times that they make bids for attention that get rejected or met inconsistently. That's how it begins to develop. So what you actually see in the home, in like that 6 to 18 month range, is more behavior on the part of insecure children trying to follow the parent and not being soothed. Crying when contact ends, where secure children, they get kind of filled up and they can afford to be put down and let go by their parents in the home environment. This is a new slide, you guys don't have it. So just so you know, you don't have that one, yep. They seem to get filled up by their interactions. So when an interaction ends and the parent says, I'm going to go do this, there's like a lot less fussing. Avoidant and ambivalent children, especially into toddlerhood, are sometimes hard to see in the home environment, hard to distinguish in the home environment because they're both fussier, edgier, angrier, kind of non-compliant, because this is when the template's being formed. So they're having these interactive exchanges that are either rebuffing them or not consistent enough. So you see, whereas we saw the one little girl who had some avoidant features, even with the play, the little girl with the Band-Aid, you can also see that child maybe trying to follow the parent and the parent not picking up, and that child fussing and crying for a period of time before she organizes a response that says, I don't cry in response to my parent leaving, okay? In home-based, what they saw was, so when parents go from room to room in the home with secure children, oftentimes they're making it known what's coming next. They're doing things that show they're mentalizing about their child's perspective. I have to go get the telephone. I have to go do this. I'll be right back, which says, I understand that you're probably wondering where I'm going. Okay? So they're doing all of these things that help make the environment predictable for the baby or for the child, and kind of showing that they get the child's state of mind. The other thing is that in the home environment, you'll often see less motoric movement and more fussing. They often don't follow quite as readily. They don't have a sense of agency in the same way that secure kids do. So secure kids might get up and follow the parent if they want more contact. Kids that are developing more insecure patterns tend to either have a kind of an angry kind of calling cry, or kind of a passive kind of cry in the home environment as well. Does that make sense? Does it fit with what you're seeing? Because sometimes people think that you're supposed to see avoidance in the home for it to be avoidance, like at 7, 8, 9 months, right? But it's as it's developing that there has to be periods of rejection and rebuffing that the child begins to organize those patterns. So you'll see patterns earlier on of more crying, more fussing, more angry behavior. And then in the strained situation procedure, you see more of the avoidance. Okay. All right, so we've given you some slides just to take a look at some things that you can look at as you're doing assessments. And then the ones, the red is what we're aiming for, or what, are indicators of strong exploration or safe exploration. The other ones, the bottom 3, are indicators of possible problematic behaviors. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to skip over those. We've kind of been elaborating that throughout. Just calling the punitive and bossy efforts to control. In the reunion episode with the little girl, right? You do this, you do that, right? Like we saw some of that controlling behavior even upon reunion there. Or over-solicitous or over-concerned with the caregiver's well-being. Those of you that know Jan Elric, probably about 10 years ago now, I saw her on the night of a home visit where she was working with a mom who was pretty consistently using pot and denying that it would have an impact on the relationship with her 2.5-year-old, and kind of minimizing the amount of pot usage. And the mom was there, and Jan was there on a home visit one day, and the mom was starting to get kind of escalated and distressed. So the 2.5-year-old toddled into mom's bedroom, comes back out with a little box, and offers it to mom, right? It's all her pot stash. So the 2.5-year-old already knows, in his caregiving, knows that if I can help mom calm down, and this is what calms her down, then I'll get more of my needs met as well. So there's a role reversal in terms of taking care of the parent's psychological needs in order to ensure caregiving, which, by the way, is a particular risk for those of us with our own kind of histories, that we can become compulsively caregiving of others, and we have to be watchful of that in our field in terms of compassion fatigue and taking care of others and not taking care of ourselves. So, okay. So now I already have this. I have this in. This is like the key to everything, right? Do unto others as you would have others do unto others. So this is the key to mentalization, I think. This is Jerry Paul, right? If you want the mom to be more thoughtful about the child's feelings, we have to find ways to help the parent know that we're thoughtful about their feelings. If we want them to be thoughtful about the child's actions, we have to be thoughtful about their actions. They have to experience with us on an ongoing basis the thing that we want them to experience, the thing that we want their child to experience from them. And when all else fails and I don't know what else to do, I land on that. So when we talk about intervention, that's like my back pocket. Okay, what do I want for this baby? I want for this baby A, B, C, or D. Okay, what does that mean the parent needs from me? A, B, C, or D, in whatever way, shape, or form I can give it. So it's, I know it's not do this, but it's like this is the way to know what to do, I feel. So what we're going to do now is one of the ways that we can think about using mom power tenets in order to increase reflective functioning is to help parents think about and discern and respond to their infant's or child's cues or confusing cues, miscues, confusing cues. And we can really think about helping the parent regulate and soothe their own emotions. And again, I have to say that distress, arousal, regulation, that our role when we're with the families is to be part of that co-regulation cycle with the parents, all right? That to the degree that we can go into home visits feeling settled, less anxious, more aware, like physiologically getting our bodies into a calm state, we loan that to the families in some respects. And it protects us a little bit from the times that we're with families and we feel completely flooded and overwhelmed ourselves. Nobody's ever experienced that, right? When I think about increasing mothers' ability to regulate and soothe their own emotions, I can be doing that behaviorally for them, cognitively talking about some of the skills around self-regulation, but I also think about our relationship being a co-regulator that will eventually help them, co-regulate their child as well. So we were talking at break a little bit about like the mom that says, or where the baby is, or a child or toddler is trying to come to us a lot. So in addition to saying something to the child about, I think it's your mom you want, something along those lines, I can be saying things to the parent. What do you find yourself thinking when your child comes to me? How do you want me to handle it? What would you like to have happen? So that I'm saying specific things that is telling the parent that your thoughts and feelings about this exchange are important to me, and that there's nothing that's too hard for us to talk about, right? Because isn't that a hard dilemma when the children are coming to you? And you almost want to say, like you want to give every body cue that says, go over to your mom, It's easy when it's an infant, right? Because you can kind of, if you're seeing if they orient to voice, you can kind of tip the baby's head so they're oriented more to the mom or dad's voice, But when it's a toddler, we can give subtle cues that redirect, but we can also talk about it directly. And I think in vivo, give the parents the experience of talking about things that are hard with us, and we can make it okay to talk about those things. But I think we need studying in order to do that. And then using mom power to really, if you're going to use the shark music and the tree, to think about treating their own needs gently, because so many of them have such a harsh tone of voice about their own experiences and their own shark music, that helping them be gentle with their own shark music, I think is really pretty crucial. Okay, so Kate talked with you a little bit earlier about that. So what we're doing in helping the parents use the tree is we're helping them think about being both strong and kind. So some of our families are imbalanced in terms of they can't set a limit because they think setting a limit means being abusive, right? So they're trying to protect their child from what they experienced. So they are out of balance in terms of kindness and not setting limits. Others are out of balance in terms of, really setting firm limits or being kind of harsh and directive and kind of not balancing that out with some of the kindness. So the tree can kind of help parents talk about, is this a time that your child needs connection with you? Is this a time that your child needs exploration? If they're getting into danger, do they need protection, or do they need exploration? Okay. Providing protection is being strong and kind. It's balanced parenting. So helping them really understand that setting limits can be part of providing a strong, safe environment for their child, and that attending to needs can be part of establishing that later independence. I think that's where a lot of the families that I've worked with, that's where they struggle. Okay, There's this wondering response wheel that you can also be thinking about. I'm kind of rushing because I really want us to watch a clip and have some time to digest it. So we start here with behavior, okay? So let's take the child coming to us and sitting on our lap. Is this a branching out moment or a strengthening roots moment? Okay, what is the child saying? What's your child saying right now? Yeah. I need you. Yeah? Okay. What might your child be feeling right now? Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 So scared, wanting comfort, enjoying contact. Okay. What might my child need? Okay. So do they need my enjoyment? Do they need me to help? Do they need me to attend to them? Do they need me to nurture them? Restore a sense of safety and balance, repair a relationship, have a repair moment. And then how can I respond to meet my child's feelings and needs? Okay, so there's, in lots of ways when you're on home visits, if you've kind of used the tree and begun to establish that this dialogue helps your child feel safe and contained and gives you a way to think about your child's needs, and we're doing it with the parents, what are your feelings right now? What do you need? Is this a time that I, as a therapist, should be nurturing and supporting, or should I be really showing a lot of pride and welcoming to the parent's exploration? So if a parent does a shift in behavior, like the day that Johanna actually had Asabi in her lap and she fell asleep, and she said, this just normally doesn't happen because I'm always on the go. I took that as a moment to say, what does that feel like? What's it like for you? It's so nice to see you there holding her. I can tell you feel relaxed. Look how relaxed she is with you. So it's like kind of beaming upon them, right? And admiring her testing out a new behavior, which is to solidly be there for her child in a way that hasn't been easy for her. And then you can go back through this with the parent too, in terms of can they attend to their needs during this cycle as well? So parent attending to child's needs, parent attending to their needs, my attending to parents' needs. I mean, we can pick any of these ports of entree to have dialogue around, or to in vivo have them experience us paying attention to their feelings, their thoughts, their needs, their wishes, desires. Okay. Okay. So, using video. Video helps us to look carefully. Does everybody see the baby? Oh, everybody, you've seen this one before. Okay, is anybody not? Okay. Okay, you have to look really carefully to see the baby. Okay, here's the head, here's the back, here's the feet, there's the arm, there's the face. It's a whole baby, right? Okay, so videotaping helps us at points in time really hone in on particular moments, understand it. I mean, I don't want to say, how many of you have felt this way, but countless times, right, you're in a home visit and you have a feeling and you don't know what it's necessarily connected to because it goes by so fast, or an exchange goes by so fast. So the videotaping sometimes helps us slow it down. It helps us attend to it and helps the parent kind of take an observer role when we can use it to look with the parent together. So instead of the parent being right in the moment, oftentimes in trying to figure out what their child's needs, we're often in the moment trying to figure out people's needs. Videotaping offers us a way to go back and kind of step outside the moment and reflect on it. So here's some of the positives in terms of videotaping. Okay, and this is what I want to pay attention to now. So our goal is to help them build on strengths and to make the most of their time with their child. And so in order to do that, we have to learn how to observe and capture the strengths first, okay? So when we're using videotaping, we can either do this on our own, like videotape for 10 minutes, watch that videotape later on our own, and then bring it back to the parent. We can do the videotaping and watch it right then and there with the parent. We can play with it many different ways. But if we're going to do it right then and there with the parent, what you have to be able to do right off the bat is try and see strengths right within the interaction, because you want to start with strengths, okay? And then only after noting strengths do we want to write down what we think could have gone differently in an interaction. And that's if we're getting ready, right? And then if you do have time to get ready, and then you can write down some open-ended questions or observations that can get you ready to have that dialogue that you might not feel quite capable of right in the moment. So I never felt for a long time quite skilled enough to do the videotape and watch it right then and there. I wanted the videotape and I wanted to take it to my supervisor, and I always was conveniently off screen and never said a word because I was scared to show like my work, right? So we're taking risks, the clients are taking risks, but we can take a look at the video with our supervisor, call out a couple core spots, and bring it back to the family. But our goal is to be non-judgmental. Okay, so that means working through whatever judgments we do have, to be non-directive so that the parent becomes the expert on what they're seeing, and then to help the parents kind of figure out their own knowledge and expertise. So, and that's a pretty tall order, right? If we can do that in the course of an intervention, we're doing okay. Okay, so what we're going to do is I want you to take out a piece of paper, and I will, oh shoot, okay. This is what I would normally have you do. This interaction is so powerful that I'm not sure that you're going to be able to do this, but you can try. So I want you in one column to, we're watching, we're going to watch probably about 6 minutes. I want you to write down what you see, okay? Only what you see. I don't want you to write down interpretations, okay? I just want you to write down what you see. So that's one big column. Then do 3 other smaller columns, and I'll tell you how to label that in a few minutes. Okay. So this is part of, this mom is with Mom Power as well. So if anybody knows her, I would say you'd have to excuse yourself because this is I think this is reflective of some of the families that we see where there's like such a level of trauma that needs to be attended to. So, so we're going to watch about 8 minutes. And we'll make sense of it in a second. So we've checked in affectively. Now, what did you see? Surely at a behavioral level. Don't try and make meaning out of it. Mm-hmm.
She seemed to really lose track of the child at that time. She was reenacting her own stuff. Up until that time, even at first when she was playing with the puppet, she was kind of aware that there was some interaction with the child.
Mm-hmm.
When she started to go with the police officer, the child was so far away and she was kind of had lost track of that.
Okay, so how do you know she lost track of it? Just back it up a second.
Because her play with the police officer seemed so internal.
Okay.
And the child was so far away and there was no comment about it. Eventually there was.
Mm-hmm.
And she was still talking to the child, but it
Yeah.
seemed, and I don't know how I would know that. I might
Yeah.
have just started thinking that she was inside her head.
Okay. Well, her voice tone changed.
And in response,
Pardon?
to, with the first puppet, she still occasionally was saying, oh, you don't like that.
Yes.
You don't like that. But she obviously didn't like the top puppet even more than she didn't like the other one, but yet that phrase was never said.
Okay, so mother acknowledged child's fear of the blonde puppet. Mother never, until the end, acknowledged child's fear of the cop puppet. I mean, that could be a behavioral observation, yeah. When she was playing the puppet, yeah, okay. So what else? Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yep, yep. It's a very, yes, yes, very much so. Yep, yep, a very, pardon? Mm-hmm. 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 Once the mom got rid of the, yep, yep. She went back with her turned face, yep, but she did go back. Had mom stopped at the firstborn puppet when she said, you don't like that, let's put that away? That's, I mean, what parents do is they make what's frightening kind of tolerable, and we see her start to go into the bucket and try and master it herself, right? So that's what secure-based parenting does, is it makes something frightening less frightening. Had she stopped there, you know, there were still other parts of the interaction. She kind of treats her as an object. She does do the doll. I mean, there would be other things to work with, but once she goes past that, kind of like all bets are off in terms of her actively engaging and frightening the child and not acknowledging that she's frightening the child. Is that, and the child is left, we see complete fright without solution, right? Telling the stranger, Mom, yeah. And we see her want to go, right? Okay, yeah. Now, what some of the research suggests that even in the face of frightening behavior, that girls tend to move into their parents and boys tend to move away from the parent who's frightening them. So we definitely see her, as soon as that kind of source is taken away, she tries to move in, kind of tending and befriending. Mm-hmm. Sue? Yes.
And then the little girl picked up on that
Mm-hmm.
because she went up with the bottle and tried to feed the
Mom.
mom.
Mm-hmm.
Feed the baby.
Uh-huh.
Like, the baby. And the
Oh.
mom goes, oh, no, that.
Yeah, nasty, nasty. Yep. Okay. Okay. What other observations? Yes. Okay. Mom's laugh. Mom laughs throughout the video. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Yep. 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 Yeah. That is a hallmark behavior that leads to disorganization. It's a hallmark. All you'd have to see is that laughter in the face of the child's distress or mocking in the face of the child's distress, and have that be a hallmark coded behavior, you know, to that level. You know, the first couple times, you know, everybody chuckled a little bit, right? If it's in tolerable range, but once it reached where it was clear that the child didn't feel like she had a sense of agency over it, that's a hallmark. So yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Frightened. Yeah. Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Shoot it in the pan. Yeah. 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 Okay. Yes. Shelley said what? Shark music. Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. Yep. For all. Yeah. Yes. Oh yeah. 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 So we saw all kinds of indices of fear, right, on the part of the baby. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Mm-hmm. So if we were to fill in the blank, what would our hypothesis be about what story is being told in this exchange? Mom reenacting her trauma. Yeah. 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 So we'd have to do if we were starting with strengths, where could we start? Mm-hmm. 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 Yes. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, or even go ahead. Yep. Mhm.
instruments, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a good one. Oh,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
so
Uh-huh.
I just seen those interactions of like trying to like teach the babies what the different toys were.
Okay. Yep. Yep. Okay. Yep. Yes. Yeah. A little. Yeah. Were there varying degrees of how sexualized people felt it might be? Yeah. Yeah. Yep. 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 So if I were to start, the piece that I would pick out was when she said to the little girl, "You don't like me," about the blonde puppet, and put it away. And I would start with, can you tell me about that? How did you know? What made you put it away? What did you think about what she did afterwards? Because I would be trying to illuminate the way she followed her child's lead. And the child, you look what you did, you made it tolerable. She went and peeked at it. You know, she was starting to take control of it, right? So that could be a specific moment in my mind. That would be, I mean, in addition to everything else that everybody was saying. But, you know, I've had the chance to look at this a few times and think, where the heck would I begin? And, you know, like that's where I think I would begin, is how did she know, like, how did she know to protect her child from being that fearful? And I would choose those words very intentionally, right? Who would have protected you when you felt afraid? Would be the next kind of piece I would be going to. And I would expect to hear this mom endorses no trauma history whatsoever. Is that believable? No. She denies that there's any history of trauma. So her story, I think the split off affect is of being scared, confused, frightened, feeling yucky, feeling coerced, tricked. She tricks her, and unprotected. And that would be the story, because it's been told in the relationship with the child. That would be the story that I would then be starting to try and illuminate and do everything in my power to voice for the mom my willingness and desire to help protect her, for her not to be afraid in our relationship, for her to feel safe and protected, for our job to help her child feel safe and protected, even if we don't know the whole story yet. Does that make sense to people? So I hope that kind of pulls everything full circle and doesn't leave you guys too like traumatized by watching probably a video that you watch and acted in lots of different ways almost every day of your work. Is it in some respects what you see a lot? Yeah.
But to be able to go on with that and
Yeah.
not have stopped the video.
Yep. Oh.
That takes a lot.
Yep.
Because it was a lot.
It was a lot. It was an awful lot. Okay. Ooh, wrong one. All right, I just want to end with one thing. I know we've like been a little more fast-paced today than I would have wished. Okay. Pardon? We needed a day, another day? Okay. Oh, where did it go? Okay. Okay, so in order to do that kind of work, right, in order to stay with that, this is my parting shot for you guys, okay? Today I will live in the moment. Some of you have seen this before. Today I will live in the moment because we would need to stay grounded after being involved with these interactions, unless the moment is unpleasant, in which case I will eat a cookie, okay? So chocolate, or talk to my reflective supervisor. So good luck in your work. Thanks for hanging in for a long day. Safe drives home. Okay.